College Football 25 marks the return of the college football video game for the first time in over a decade. It's hard to believe, but NCAA Football 14 came out all the way back on July 9th, 2013. Without a doubt, college football has changed just a little bit since then, but hey, haven't we all? Yikes, yeah, that's me back in 2013, and like college football, I have grown and changed a little bit since then. The landscape, everything involved with the sport that we all know and love has changed a whole bunch, and I'm excited to see what that's going to look like on the latest college football video game. So in this video, we're going to be discussing all those changes and just how much college football is different since the last video game that we saw. We'll start first and foremost with the biggest thing, and that's NIL, which of course is name, image, and likeness. Of course, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for NIL and all the hoops we've had to jump through to get to this point. Thanks to NIL, college athletes are now able to be compensated, and if college athletes decide to appear in College Football 2025, they not only get a copy of the game, but they also get a check for $600. And I believe there's over 15,000 players that have already confirmed that they will be in the game or have opted into the game. Of course, the most famous no is Texas quarterback Arch Manning, but we don't care. I think he's, third string on the depth chart right now, maybe second string. No one is going to be chomping at the bit to play with him anyways. As Drake once said, bench players talking like starters. I hate it. I don't know though, Texas fans. Arch was pretty locked in during that spring game, looked pretty good. So maybe, blocking out College Football 25, it's caused him to lock in a little bit, and that's what we're going to see. And speaking of Drake, I don't know, Kendrick Lamar might be making him jump into the transfer portal and look for a new career himself. But that's a different discussion. Maybe we'll talk about that on another video. And speaking of the transfer portal, I think that might be the biggest addition to College Football 2025 that I'm most excited about that we did not see on NCAA Football 14. Of course, that didn't come out until 5 years after the last NCAA football release, as it was launched on October 15th, 2018. Previously, transfers would have to sit out a year at their new school, but that was eliminated even in 2021 when D1 athletes in football, basketball, hockey, and baseball were able to use the portal once without sitting out a year after the transfer, thus the birth of the one-time transfer rule. This is going to be one of those can't-miss features in College Football 2025, and I can't wait for that. Another major difference, and I know we've said that with our last two talking points, but this one can't be understated, I don't think, because it's really changed the landscape of college football and college athletics in general, is conference realignment and all the crazy changes that we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. But there's been changes nearly every year since 2013 when we had our last game. We'll kind of go no huddle and break things down year by year, starting with 2014, where you have my alma mater, Louisville. They were actually in the Big East/American Conference back in the release of NCAA Football 14. That was predating their move to the ACC a year before that. Rutgers moved from the Big East/American to the Big Ten. Maryland bounced out of the ACC. They went to the Big Ten as well. Then you've got East Carolina, Tulane, Tulsa going from the CUSA to the American Conference. Old Dominion making the jump up from the FCS ranks and joining Western Kentucky to join the Conference USA. And then you've got Georgia Southern, Appalachian State joining the Sun Belt from the FCS ranks as well. Oh, deep breath after that one. 2014 was a crazy year for conference realignment, we thought, and then things changed about a decade or so later. We'll get to that coming up. But next, of course, 2015, Charlotte joining the CUSA from the FCS. Navy ends their independent status to join the American Conference. No action in 2016, kind of a surprise. In 2017, Coastal Carolina comes up to the FBS ranks, joining the Sun Belt Conference. In 2018, Liberty does the same thing, going from the FCS to an FBS independent. So from 2018 to 2022, we don't have any conference realignment action, and college football fans are like, okay, we're slowing things down. Things aren't crazy. And then we had all sorts of shots being fired. We started in 2022. Marshall, Old Dominion, Southern Miss, and they go from the CUSA to the Sun Belt. James Madison joins as well from the FCS. I believe it was around this time, if I'm not mistaken, it's either 2021 or 2022 when it is announced that you've got Texas and Oklahoma set to join the SEC, which will be this fall. 2024 will be the first time we'll see the Horns and the Sooners in the Southeastern Conference. That kind of sparked things and made some of these other conferences make some moves. So we're going just by teams officially joining the conferences. So we go from 2022 to 2023 now, where we have Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati going from the American to the Big 12. BYU goes from independent to join the Big 12 as well. And then we've got a bunch of other moves in 2023. Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, North Texas, Rice, UAB, UTSA. They all go from CUSA to the American Conference. The CUSA then adds FCS programs, Jacksonville State and Sam Houston State, as well as Independence, Liberty, and New Mexico State to their conference to replace all those teams that we just mentioned. I need a water, guys. I didn't think this one through. All the talking about conference realignment I'm having to do here. That wrapped up 2023. So 2024, where we are now, these are changes that we're going to see this season. And of course, in the college football 2025 game, you've got the Big Ten with Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA coming over from the Pac-12. The ACC will add SMU, California, and Stanford. The Big 12 gets Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. As we mentioned, Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC. That leaves, of course, Washington State and Oregon State, who will be going to the Mountain West. And let's cue it up. Rest in peace, Pac-12. Pour some out for the Pacific 12 Conference, y'all. It was real. It was fun. And then, of course, you've got teams currently in the FBS that were not in 2013. We talked about some of those teams moving up to the FBS ranks from the FCS ranks. So these are all teams, again, who were not in NCAA Football 14, who will be in College Football 2025. And unfortunately, one thing we did not touch on was one special team, that's right, America's team, that did not continue playing in the FBS. That is the Idaho Vandals. And unfortunately, they will not be in the game unless something happens and we get FCS teams in the game. No pressure, EA, but I really want to play in the Kibbe Dome. Now, last up for the biggest differences I have from College Football 14 to now in College Football 2025 is another major one. I know I've kind of said that for everything, but college football has changed a lot over the last decade, guys. And that is the BCS going to the college football playoff format. And again, that's another major jump that we're going to have coming up this year as you go from a 4-team playoff format to a 12-team playoff format. But if you go back to 2013, when we had our last college football video game, we were still using the computer rankings and the BCS. So yeah, how far we have come in that regard. And now we've got some fun college football facts, some facts that you wouldn't think of in terms of how much the game has changed. And this just kind of puts into perspective how much time has gone by since we had our last college football game. And a little bit of trivia here. I'm going to let this marinate and let you guys think about this. We have 7 current FBS coaches who are still with the same team that they were with back in 2013 when we had our last college football video game. Drop a comment and let us know who you think those coaches are. I'll drop the answer in the comment section here coming up in the next few days. But see if you can get all 7 of those coaches who are with their same FBS school now as they were back in 2013. It's a tough question now. You know, you've got Nick Saban who retired. He's no longer with Alabama, and that's a big one because back in 2013, the Alabama dynasty was only getting started. Nick Saban only had half the natties he would finish with when he retired. He, of course, won a championship in 2015, 2017, and 2020. His defensive coordinator on the game in 2013 won Kirby Smart, who was defensive coordinator at Alabama in 2013. He would not be named Georgia's coach until 2016. Clemson coach Dabo Swinney was just 40-21 overall, but had a 10-4 and 11-2 season in 2011 and 2012, respectively. The Tigers had yet to win a national championship. They would win in 2016 and 2018. Jim Harbaugh was the coach of the San Francisco 49ers the last time an NCAA game was released. He became Michigan's coach in 2015, won a natty this year, and of course left to become the LA Chargers coach, all before we got another game. Urban Meyer had become Ohio State's coach in 2012. He has since won a national championship, retired, returned to coach the Jacksonville Jaguars, sucked, and retired again since we had an NCAA football game. Some other crazy tidbits. Arizona State coach Kenny Dillingham was the OC at Chaparral High School in Arizona. Shout out to the Firebirds. Ryan Day was an OC quarterback coach at Boston College. Dan Lanning was the recruiting coordinator at Arizona State. Lincoln Riley was the OC quarterback coach at East Carolina. New Alabama coach Kalen DeBoer was the offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach at Southern Illinois. And Deion Sanders just founded Prime Prep a year prior in Texas. Some more tidbits and nuggets of information. Brady Hoke was in his third season at Michigan. Bill O'Brien was in his second year with Penn State. Butch Jones was in his first year building Tennessee brick by brick. Some other funny ones. Kevin Sumlin was at Texas A&M. Bo Pelini and his sweater and cat at Nebraska still. Mac Brown in his last season at Texas. Charlie Strong would go on to be his replacement. Charlie Weiss was at Kansas. Lane Kiffin would make it 5 games into the season at USC in 2013 before he was fired, with Ed Orgeron being the interim coach and then Clay Helton coaching the bowl game. Trojans actually finished the season 9-4 that year. Miami had 0 ACC championships in 2013. They still have 0 ACC championships in 2024. And then, of course, you look at the Iowa Hawkeyes, who had the 114th total offense back in 2013. I guess some things never change. 2013 was also the first year that the targeting penalty was introduced. Aaron Donald won the Nagurski Award that year at Pitt. He's had an entire Hall of Fame NFL career and retired since we had a new college football game. Here's a look at the final BCS rankings back in 2013 too. What's the biggest surprise for you? I'm thinking maybe South Carolina, who was still being coached by Steve Spurrier. That was after they lost Steven Garcia and Marshawn Lattimore, if I'm not mistaken, and turned the offense over to Cox legend Connor Shaw. And of course, you look at the Heisman voting. Some diehard college football fans will recognize all these names. Jameis Winston, of course, had a ridiculous year. This was the year after Johnny Manziel, won the Heisman as a freshman. I wanted to put things into perspective, just how far we have come, and more particularly, how long we have had to wait for a new college football video game. I don't know about you guys, but this gets me fired up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll have plenty more NCAA football content coming your way here over these next few weeks. The release trailer is coming out soon. Let me know in the comments what you're excited for, and if you have the answer to that trivia question. Thanks for watching.